The Pro Bowlers Fall Tour on ESPN makes a stop here in picturesque Canandaigua, New York. Our 5 finalists for tonight's telecast. In the opening match, he won earlier this year in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Last night, he vaulted from 7th to 5th in the final game. The Chief, Brian Himmler. He'll square off in the opening match against a player looking for his very first PBA title. A win would qualify him for the Brunswick World Tournament of Champions. From Warren, Michigan, Kurt Pilon. The winner moves on to face our 3rd-seeded qualifier. He's the all-time career money leader, 5-time Player of the Year, Walter Ray Williams, Jr. In the number 2 position, he's captured 18 titles, but hasn't won since the Fall Tour in '97. Making his 4th TV appearance here in 1999, Amleto Monacelli. And for the 2nd straight week, the player they're all gunning for, he outdistanced the field by more than 500 pins, Parker Bohn III. Well, great to have you by on this Wednesday night, the Pro Bowlers Tour on ESPN. I'm Phil Ferguson, along with my broadcast partner, Marshall Holman from Canandaigua, New York. And Marshall, certainly a tremendous field tonight.
Well, we got a great field. You know, the first match, a couple of players that are trying to make their way on the tour, but the last 3 players we have, Walter Ray Williams Jr., 30 titles. Amleto with 18. Parker Bohn III, our leader, who led last week's tournament, led this week by over 500 pins. You said earlier, 21 titles. The power, it's on top.
And in the opening match, once again, Kurt Pilon going up against Brian Himmler. And for Pilon, we'll get a close look at this youngster, 27 years old, 5'11", 185 pounds. So once again, out of Warren, Michigan. But boy, he can light it up. Great amateur player.
And he was disappointed in the way he's been bowling since he's been on tour. He thinks it was time he made a telecast, and he's done it today.
Bringing it back. Oh, no problem. Sets it in the pocket. A courageous opening shot because some jitters that first shot, Marshall.
Well, the scores were very high throughout the entire week, and Pilon was there, had no problem, and very good opening shot to put the pressure on Brian Himmler.
Himmler a bit distracted here in the opening shot out of Cincinnati, Ohio. The foul light inadvertently went off. At times, PBA will have a foul line judge. Wow, bringing it back, and they were able to do that all week, but not on that opening shot.
Well, he leaves the 1, the 2, and the 10, and he looked at his hand after he threw that ball as if to say to himself he didn't get the proper leverage, didn't get the right hit on the ball. Look how far to the right that ball goes. It's on the 1 board at 50 feet. That's no way it's going to come back. Himmler throws the big hook for his strikes, but he'll throw the ball very hard and very straight for the spare.
12 out of 20 events he has cashed in this year.
Great spare shooter, Himmler makes the 1, the 2, and the 10. And that's going to settle him down quite a bit, but he's certainly concerned about the way he threw that first ball, getting it far to the right, not hooking it back.
Only title once again in Albuquerque, seated 2nd, defeated Brian Voss, Chris Barnes in that tournament. And this television pair, 47 and 48, tell us a little bit about it.
Well, for the right-handers, the left-hand lane has a little more oil on it. 10-pin goes. Great shot from Himmler. The right-hand lane's going to hook a little more. Left-hand lane is a little bit tighter, but they're pretty close. We'll take a look at this ball going well to the right, but you can see, Phil, it only gets to about the 6 board. Makes the hard charge back, 6-pin out of the channel just to tap it out. And the thankful reaction.
Pilon up in the 2nd frame. Started off this opening match with a strike.
That's high. Crosses over, leaves nothing but the 5-pin. Pilon goes much more direct than Himmler. The trajectory straight down the lane. Ball just never had a chance. Crosses over into the 1-2 pocket. Parker Bohn would like that later on in the telecast, but for Pilon, not what he wanted. but it gives him the opportunity to practice the strike shot once again. Probably move in a couple boards to the left, give a little more room.
Shot one of 12 300 games this week. Parker Bohn on top, 3 300s. No problem with that 5-pin spare, so we're all even after the second frame. Pilon up in frame 3, once again making his first televised appearance. Looks pretty cool. Averaging just over 214 this year in 494 games bowled. Taking some time, getting set. Most players go through a certain routine.
Yeah, very important to make yourself comfortable prior to throwing the ball. Eight pin, the last one to go, Phil, and he's certainly comfortable on lane 47, but he's going to have to string some strikes together. The scores were very high this week.
Well, he looks solid at the line, Pilon. What a nice game. Himmler working on a strike. Can take the early lead here in the third frame.
Comes in light again, and fortunate, breaks the 2-4 out of the 2-4-10. Let's take a look at a Dexter footwork of the pros. Brian Himmler pushes the ball away very early and has very quick feet. He drifts to the left to open his position at the foul line, and he uses the number 2 heel and number 2 sole combination on his shoes to plant and create leverage so he can throw the ball way to the right. That's this week's Dexter footwork of the pros.
Himmler with a spare in the third, so he has started off spare, strike, spare. Pilon strike, spare, strike. This match is all even heading into the fourth frame. Himmler with 5 regional titles to go along with that 1 national championship. He lost to Pilon earlier this week in match play, 258 to 187. You can throw that out the window.
Yeah, that's not anything they're thinking about right now. Ten pins gone. The messenger came back and got it.
Wow. Powerful ball, almost left the 7-10 split. Fortunate enough to kick out that 10 pin, so relatively easy spare for Himmler in the fourth frame.
We'll watch Brian Himmler once again throw the ball very hard and straight.
Whoa, got the spare. So we've got a dandy going here in the opening match. We're in Canandaigua, New York. Back with more of this match in a minute. Match 1, we've got a tight one. There you see the score. Himmler 59 through 3, and Pilon can take the early lead, Marshall.
Well, and for Pilon, he needs to make an adjustment on lane 48. He went high, crossed over, left the 5-pin, and when he shot the 5-pin, Phil did not make a good shot on that either. That was also on the left side of that pin, so we'll see what he does coming up here in the fourth frame.
All these players love this television pair. 18 games bowled among the 5 players, and the average over those 18 games, 251. Pilon averaged 262 on this pair.
Well, maybe we'll see that coming up now, but so far, right lane giving problems to both Pilon and Himmler.
Fourth frame, working on a strike. Better shot, leaves just the 4-pin.
More speed, kept the ball on line, but still crept a little bit high.
Again, Pilon bowled in a lot of amateur tournaments, and I asked him about the difference between amateur bowling and bowling out here on tour, and he said on tour the amount of great players. There's a few great amateurs in every tournament, but on the PBA there's so many great players.
Picks up the 4-pin without any problem, but someone's going to have to start striking.
A 1-pin advantage through 4 frames for Pilon, who is trying to win, and should he do that, he will be eligible for the Brunswick World Tournament of Champions later on the fall circuit. As we head to the midway point of match 1, the winner will face Walter Ray Williams Jr.
(3-6-10) for Kurt Pilon.
Pilon trying to figure out the pair here, the television pair, 47 and 48.
Needs to fit the ball in between the 3 and the 6. A spare that he's going with a harder ball.
Don't want to hook it much, do you?
No.
Just like that.
A good spare covered by Pilon. Shaking his head, but happy to have it. Sugar Ray Leonard, one of the people in the crowd today, and really glad to have the champ here. 5-time world champion.
And there's Sugar Ray in the crowd, but neither player here able to provide the knockout punch early on in this match between Himmler and Pilon. Himmler leads it by 2 in the 5th. Brings it out.
More confident shot from Brian Himmler.
Himmler making his way, dropped to 24th after the second round.
Well, he certainly found the line now. High flush in the pocket on the right-hand lane, lane 48. Now on 47, can he put 2 strikes together? He likes it. He runs it out. You can tell halfway through, Brian Himmler very satisfied with that release.
Better save some should he advance.
Watch the ball as it goes out to about the 4 board. Coming back, 5-pin just gets annihilated by the power that Brian Himmler puts on the ball.
12-pin advantage now for Himmler after that double. Pilon up in the 6th frame.
Boy, that's what the outside of lane 48 is just on fire. It's hooking back so hard, and Pilon is having a difficult time acclimating himself to that lane. You can see his ball heading right for the nose. There's a 3 and the 10. It's a split that's easily made. He'll take the spare ball, throw it hard and straight, fit it between the 3 and the 10. Doesn't want to give Himmler any more room.
Able to do just that, fitting it in and picking up the baby split. Boy, crowds have been great all week long here at Roseland Bowl.
Well, they bowled 42 games, and I'd be willing to bet you could count on one hand the games under 200 that Kurt Pilon bowled. Right now, going at a 195 pace, trying to put some pressure on Brian Himmler.
Out of the 42 is low just to 175. Very consistent week.
And the bucket, the 2, 4, 5, and 8. I'd rather shoot at the 3-10 split than the 2, 4, 5, 8. There are just so many ways to miss this that it's very difficult. Tried to get the ball in between the 2 and the 5. Let the ball carry on into the 8-pin, and the 2 will take care of the 4.
Again, you don't want to hook it too much. Stand right a little bit.
He's going with the spare ball.
Well, you talked about it. And he left the door open now for Brian Himmler. Kurt Pilon with an open in the 7th. He has 120 through 7. And there you have it, leaving the door open. And Brian Himmler, will he walk through? We'll know in a minute. We're back in Canandaigua and a 29-pin advantage. Brian Himmler on top, and he seems to have found it, Marshall. Last couple of shots right there.
Well, the last 2 shots, he was right where he wanted to be. If he can throw strikes here in the 7th and 8th frames, I think it's going to be a very short day for Kurt Pilon. Well, he struck, but he's far from being lined in as that ball crossed over. They call that a Brooklyn.
What's going through a player's mind right now?
Right now, what's going through Himmler's mind is he's thanking whoever he thanks when he gets a good break, because he stole one. He did that last night in the position round game, threw the ball wide, and they carried to Brooklyn that I think it was in between like 5 or 6 strikes in a row. So good break, certainly part of this game.
He's got another one, so that's 4 in a row now for Himmler. Yeah, Himmler, the final game last night, shot 241 to move into the top 5.
Pilon switches balls, moves further left, gets away from that burnout dry area on lane 48.
Is it too late?
Yeah, well, I think it very well could be. Pilon with a possible 210. Right now, Brian Himmler's looking at a 229 pace. That's if he just spares out.
Pilon with that 214 average this year. Well, you learn, don't you, once you make a few telecasts.
And you have very little time to make adjustments.
Wow.
And that ball simply fell off his hand. A little wry smile from Pilon. I think he pretty much knows that even if he would have struck out, it probably wasn't going to be his day. Ball slips off into the channel at about 45, 48 feet, and the reaction of Pilon. Oops. He'll have other opportunities, and don't worry about it, Kurt. I've done that a few times.
You always smiled when you did that too, didn't you, Marshall?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, coming back now. And put it right there for a spare. Pilon, though, the best he can shoot 190. And Brian Himmler now just looking, I think, to Walter Ray Williams Jr., and he has to get lined in.
Well, very, very good point, Phil. That's exactly what he's thinking right now, is figuring out lane 48. The match is basically won. Needs to figure this lane out. He moved in even farther to the left.
Now, when you say move in, moving a little left?
Moving left with his feet and left with the ball as well. You can see the ball now only going out to about the 8 board, coming right back, high flush, solid in the pocket. That ball never touched the 9 pin. Went right past it, but got some help from one of his friends.
Possible 259 for Himmler. He leads by 59 as we head into the 10th frame of match 1. Walter Ray Williams Jr. up next. Well, he is a winner. Brian Himmler, a smile on his face, but I tell you what, a long way to go. Walter Ray Williams Jr. up next. Amleto Monacelli in that 2nd seed, and on top, Parker Bohn the 3rd. So a long way to go for Himmler. Come on back. And Brian Himmler wins match 1, 258 to 178. Hi, everyone. I'm Phil Ferguson, along with my broadcast partner, Marshall Holman. Great bowling town here, no doubt about it. These fans have been great all week here in Canandaigua. And Marshall, that first match, iffy in the beginning, and then Himmler put it away.
Well, you know what? I think the key to Himmler is twofold. Number one, Pilon did not bowl a real good game, didn't put a lot of pressure on him. And the other thing was when Himmler carried that Brooklyn strike, the crossover strike, it seemed to loosen him up, got him going.
Himmler now, 1 match under his belt. Got some heavyweights on top.
Well, he's got a very tough time ahead of him now. He's got Walter Ray Williams Jr. to bowl in the next game. All he's done is won 30 titles and been a bowler of the year 5 times. Then it's Amleto Monacelli, an 18-time PBA champion. So it doesn't get any easier. And who does he have to finish with in the last game, the tournament leader? The same man who was a tournament leader last week, Parker Bohn III. And Parker, last week a little bit of a disappointment. This week, I'm sure you're looking for a different result.
Yeah, I'm ready for a little revenge this week. No bad shots this week.
All right, now, yesterday, in the first 2 games of match play in the 2nd round, what did you do again?
Well, I guess you could say we started out with the front 24 in a row, Marshall.
2 300 games, back-to-back 300 games, led the tournament by 538 pins, really dominated. And in the last 8 games of match play, admittingly, you didn't bowl very good. Tough to get motivated.
Actually, I kind of struggled a little bit last night. The lanes kind of got to me, but then I started trying some things to see what would come out today. But I've got it all figured out, and I'm ready to get them.
All right, Parker, good luck today. Phil, back up to you.
All right, thanks a lot, Marshall. And now we're set for match 2. Brian Himmler on the right, taking on Walter Ray Williams Jr., the king. Walter with 30 PBA titles, and Himmler in search of win number 2 here on the PBA Tour. 258 to 178. Boy, Himmler caught fire from the 5th frame on. Well, he struggled early in match 1. And Marshall, what happened there? A little bit fast, a little bit quick.
And the 10. Man who throws a big hook, also good spare shooter. And he made the 1-2-10 in the first game, but could not pick up the 2-10 here the first frame of the second. That's an awfully nice gift for a 5-time PBA Player of the Year. As if he needs one.
Walter making his second straight TV appearance. Just the 10-pin, and classic style at the line. He rears up a little bit, but he does it every time.
Well, Walter's got a very unique form. Watch how he's shoulder-high backswing, and he's really all arms and legs when he throws the ball. Not exactly perpendicular to the foul line, but the repetition is what gets the job done for Walter Ray. They call him Deadeye. Doesn't miss too many spares, and he made a very good shot, a good quality shot to open up the first frame. Just left the ringing 10.
Walter with those 30 national titles trails just Mark Roth with 34 and Earl Anthony on top at 41, and someday he'll pass them both.
Well, the 10-pin responds this time, falling over, and 2 flush hits for Walter Ray Williams Jr. Spare and a strike. Watch the 6-pin. It'll just barely touch out the 10, and the reaction of Walter Ray, that's right. This time it's down.
Animated Walter Ray. Himmler in the second. Strike for Himmler in the second frame. You can access all the latest information about the PBA by checking out the PBA's website at pbatour.com. The site, sponsored by Brunswick, features all of the latest tournament standings, scores, news from the PBA, as well as game-by-game updates during match play and scheduled live chats with the pros. Boy, they keep it up to date and keep you fans out there in tune to the PBA Tour.
Oh, and quite a nice little break where Brian Himmler trips out the 4-pin. Walter's saying, hey, that's what I'm supposed to do. Ball's going to come in high. Pins go to the sideboard and a nice little kick, and oh, thank you very much. Now that's interesting because Walter Ray is the player who's going to trip the 4-pins the most, and Brian Himmler's the one who's going to throw the power strike. So Himmler with the big hook gets the 4-pin tripped out, and Walter Ray, the more down and in player, showing off a little power.
Walter with an 11-pin lead after 3 frames. Match 2, Amleto Monacelli in our semifinal match, and Parker Bohn the third on top. Oh, blows out that 7-pin. Oh, he sent them all over there. Walter Ray Williams Jr. with 3 in a row and takes a 21-pin lead. Brian Himmler will be up next when we come back. And there you see Walter Ray Williams Jr. has ripped off 3 in a row. Brian Himmler has come up with 2, but Himmler still trails by 21. Match 2 of the Canandaigua Open. We're joined here in the booth. Sugar Ray Leonard, fighter of the decades in the 80s. Sugar Ray, certainly great to have you up here. And an illustrious boxing career, now involved in several different ventures. Tell us about your involvement in this particular sport.
Well, Track is one of the leading bowling ball distributors. In fact, they've made the most advanced technologically ball there is now, and it's called the Champ. But I tell you, I've been a bowling fan for many years. My family used to always go to the bowling alley to spend time.
All right, Ray, I understand earlier today you had a little match game with the president of Track, Phil Cardinelli. How'd that go?
Well, he spotted me. He gave me a few pins, but it didn't do any good because currently I don't have the touch, as Phil would say, to beat him, because he claims that my expertise is boxing, his expertise is bowling.
So it'd be a mixed match either way. Whether if you had the gloves on, it wouldn't be fair, and with bowling balls in your hands, not so fair either.
You're absolutely right.
Himmler picked up the 3-6-10. Walter Ray just clearing a pin out of the gutter. And Sugar Ray, for the when you talk about bowling, I know that bowling and golf, you love to golf. Now you shoot 90s in golf, you shoot 90s in bowling. Something wrong here. I mean, golfing, that's okay.
I think the numbers are wrong, because when they first asked me, said, what do you shoot in bowl? I said, well, 90. And but I can play to about 180. Every now and then. I beat Evander Holyfield, by the way.
Oh, he's easy.
Yes, he is.
Big strike by Himmler. What do you think about Muhammad Ali, huh?
Well, I think it was fascinating, the fact that people actually believed that he would come back to the ring. But he was joking, and Muhammad Ali is one of the all-time greats, no question about that.
Ray, do you have a favorite tonight out of the 4 that are left?
Amleto, no question about it. And I wish my buddy Steve Hopstein was here, and Carol Giannotti. But Amleto is my guy.
Okay, so Amleto, well, I'll tell you what, he's a champion in his own right with 18 PBA titles, and we'll see if he can get it done.
Walter Ray with 4 in a row. He leads by 34. Don't forget, I believe on ESPN Classic, Sugar Ray's hit parade, right?
Yes, I chronicle all the old fights, great fights of the past, and it's very exciting.
Walter Ray up in the 6th frame.
Now he was going for 5 in a row. Walter Ray Williams leaves the solid 10, but got the match well in hand. Working at a 2:29 pace right now. Brian Himmler working at a 1:96, so doesn't look like Williams is too nervous, does it, Phil?
No. We're joined by Sugar Ray Leonard in the booth. I want to touch on one thing because you're heavily involved in the DARE program. I believe over 360,000 classrooms across the country now have DARE once again involved in this great program, drug abuse resistance education. You're not only the spokesman, but you really take part in this, don't you?
Exactly. In fact, I've written a textbook called 12 Rounds to Victory for the school system, and will be out probably in the spring.
Himmler. Strike for Himmler in the 6th. He's now on a double, so he has cut into that lead. He trails by only 23. Sugar Ray, also, you went before Congress, didn't you, to speak on behalf of the DARE program?
Because it's all about kids now. I think the more we address the issue of drugs and violence with kids, the better off our kids' future will be.
So Himmler now can cut into that lead. Another 10 pins, Marshall.
Well, could make it just put himself right back in the match. We'd certainly like to thank our guest, Sugar Ray Leonard, for joining us in the booth. That's got to hurry up. But look at that. It just does make it back.
That looked like one of Sugar Ray's knockout punches there, but it's not quite over. Walter Ray Williams Jr. up by 13 in this exciting match. Part of the Go Network, go.com.
It's got to hurry. Oh, he's got some room out there, Phil. The only problem for Walter Ray Williams right now, a couple of 10 pins he's left. Ball sneaking out to about the 2 board. Watch the 5 pin just race over to the left. This is a very important shot for Walters. He gives the solid reaction. He knew he had it all the way. Strike here to extend that lead to 23.
Just the 10 pins. So Walter Ray started off with a spare and then 4 in a row. Another spare, strike. And Himmler is working now on 3 in a row.
Now for Williams, 8 balls in the pocket, 5 strikes, 3 10 pins.
Well, he's not going to miss that one. 6-time World Horseshoe pitching champion.
Now Himmler's got the opportunity to actually take the lead. If he were to strike here in the 8th and the 9th, could lead by 7 pins. But first things first, this to be just 3 pins back. Will he get there? Oh, I tell you, this man has got such a strong hand. He really puts a lot of power on the ball. Drives it back from the right into the pocket flush. Now just a 3-pin lead for Walter Ray Williams Jr. You may not know a lot about Brian Himmler, but I'll tell you one thing. He's an extraordinarily confident player. I heard him talking with the press last night saying, well, you know, I may only have 1 title, but, you know, I haven't been out here as long as a Walter Ray Williams or a Parker Bohn. So he's confident.
4 shows in '99 for Himmler. 10 pin up and will not go down.
Now that's a product of how far the ball has to come back from the right to get back into the pocket. It hooks in so late. You'll see as the ball is going to come back, it'll get to the 1-3 pocket, but the 6-pin has no chance of bouncing out, and the messenger just doesn't have enough steam on it to get to the 10-pin.
Flattens it out, picks up the 10-pin spare. So he has 185 through 8. Walter now with a strike in the 9th and have 189 in the 8th, a 4-pin advantage. So we're coming right down to the 9th and 10th.
Williams fortunate that Himmler didn't strike in the last frame. Walter just fed that ball right into the pocket. Beautifully thrown.
Now it's the 10th frame.
Well, for Himmler, the best he can do would be 235. If Williams would strike in his first ball, that would put him at a 239 pace. He would need to get just 8 pins and a spare for 230, or actually 7 pins and a spare.
Here it comes.
And a solid 10. My gosh, he's pulled such a good game, Phil.
You know, he bowled great last week, too. Lost out to Rick Lawrence, who went on to win.
Take a look at the 6-pin, second from the right around the bottom of the 10-pin. And right now, Brian Himmler still has a chance.
Possible 229 with a strike.
About as clean a 229 as you're ever going to see, Phil.
So it'd be a double. Himmler would need a double.
Walter needs 7 pins right now. That's even better. Just wanted to make sure he shot over 225. He shoots 229. He forces Himmler to get 2 strikes in the 10th frame and then a short fill.
Is that a joke?
That has nothing to do with, no, a short fill frame, Phil.
All right. 2 strikes and 5 pins to win. I can take it.
Okay, all right.
First things first, a couple of strikes he needs. There's one. Beautiful shot off the hand of Brian Himmler.
Boy, if Himmler wins this game, Walter Ray Williams is going to walk away feeling very unlucky because really he out-bowled Brian Himmler, but the score is what we're looking for. Needs to keep his form here. He just threw maybe his best shot of the day. Wants to repeat it. Oh, it's got to hurry. And the 10-pin stands. It plagued Walter Ray Williams, and now it's the downfall of Brian Himmler.
Boy, Walter Ray Williams Jr. sitting on the bench. And 229 by Williams. Himmler can spare this for 225. We'll be back with Marshall Holman's tip. And this week with Walter Ray. Back with that in a minute. And we're back 229 to 225. A thrilling second match victory. Oh my, Walter Ray Williams Jr. now advances to the semifinal match against Amleto Monacelli. We had some high scores all week long. Here with a look at some of the other finishers. My partner, Marshall Holman.
Well, we'll take a look at some of the other finishers this week. Norm Duke, 16-time titleist, just missed the telecast by 2 pins. The 1997 Brunswick World Tournament of Champions champion John Gannon, 11th place. And even though he's got a sore knee, local favorite Doug Kent was able to finish 15th. Made a great run the last round, shot almost 400 over. Mike Miller, he thrilled the bowling world with his 300 game earlier this year in Reno. And in 24th place, Mike Albee. You don't see Mike finishing in 24th place very often, but 25-time PBA champion. Now back to you, Phil.
All right, thanks a lot, Marshall. And I tell you what, if you want to improve your game, you don't want to watch me. You want to watch my partner, Marshall Holman. Here's another Score More with Brunswick tip. This week's guest, Walter Ray Williams Jr.
One of the most frequently asked questions in bowling is how can I pick up corner pins, specifically the 10-pin for the right-hander. We brought in one of the best spare shooters in the business, PBA Hall of Famer Walter Ray Williams Jr. Walter, good to have you with us.
Nice to be here, Marshall.
Now, Walter, what are some of your tips for picking up the 10-pin?
Well, the problem some people have is using their strike ball and release to convert the 10-pin. I would suggest practicing making the 10-pins by going to your local bowling center and using your strike ball to shoot at the 10-pin on your first and second shot for about 3 games. To throw the ball straighter, you might want to change your hand position so the ball will have very little side rotation. What you need to do is stand in the left part of the lane and throw directly across the lane at the 10 pin. I would also suggest using a plastic ball to help cut down on the hook.
The plastic ball has less friction, so it'll hook less.
Exactly.
Remember, spare shooting is one of the most fundamental and important parts of the game. Exercise the advice given today by Walter Ray, and you'll see your scores improve. Thanks, Walter Ray.
Thanks, Marshall.
Certainly a great spare shooter, and that's why he is making about 117 TV appearances over his career. Coming up next, Walter Ray Williams Jr. and Amleto Monacelli. And we're just about set for the semifinal match from Canandaigua, New York at Roseland Bowl. There's some of the fans. They've been lining up and couldn't wait to get here this week. The crowd's great all week long, and an enthusiastic crowd here for the televised finals. Walter Ray Williams Jr. will start this semifinal match.
Well, you wouldn't have expected him to miss the pocket, Phil, and Walter does not disappoint, and now we've got the matchup that we kind of thought we'd have. Running through to form, we've got two of the best players going after each other. Much bigger hook for Amleto Monacelli. Starts the ball in, throws it to out, brings it back into the pocket. Smooth power from one of the great players, an 18-time PBA titleist.
38 years old, out of Barquisimeto, Venezuela. Really enjoyed much success in the late 80s, early 90s. And again, you mentioned his 18 titles, but he says now it's very difficult with his family back home in Venezuela and trying to split time there along with being out here on the Pro Boulders Tour.
The early double did not get back. It's the 2 and the 8 for Monacelli. Right now, Walter Ray Williams Jr. all lined in, knows exactly where he's going. For Monacelli, this ball just does not get back up to the pocket. Maybe not clean off his hand. Didn't quite get the revolutions necessary. A relatively tough spare, but should be handled easily by Monacelli. Gotta hurry.
Big hook. Chops it. So Walter Ray now up in the second frame, working on a strike early advantage for the 5-time Player of the Year.
The early double.
You don't want to give him any room.
Now let's take a look at the Dexter footwork of the pros. This time it's Walter Ray Williams Jr., the familiar footwork of Walter Ray. 5-step approach, very big the first 2 steps, and watch the backswings about shoulder high. Looks like he sort of twists a little bit, not perpendicular to the foul line. You certainly wouldn't teach that, but Walter gets it done, and that's this week's Dexter footwork of the pros.
Third frame and a stubborn 10-bit.
You know, it's conceivable that that'll be the only thing that he'll leave the entire night. Watch your 6-pin. It's going to lay in the channel. This is the flat 10. He's given us a little of both, and he was hoping it would fall, but he's not really surprised.
Picks up that 10-pin spare. He has just not missed the pocket at all. He has left a couple of corner pins, and you hate to move, don't you, when you're throwing the ball in the pocket?
Well, yeah, you do. And then, you know, Walter doesn't miss the pocket very often when the lanes are tough, and these are pretty high-scoring lanes, so you wouldn't expect him to at all.
He just kind of flips it out there and gets a strike, but kind of cups it to start and flips it out there at the foul line.
Well, Amleto certainly has his own unique style as well. Pretty fly for a Venezuelan guy. I think that's youth being served. Needs to get this ball further up into the pocket. Can cut the lead to 11.
Beautiful shot off the hand of Amleto Monacelli. Hey, coming up next, right after bowling, stay with us, Sports Center. Coming up, World Series preview. Oh, yeah, how about it? Braves taking on the Yankees, rematch from '96. Tyson on stage, and Dominic Hasek in the hot corner. That's coming up next, Sports Center, right after bowling here on ESPN. And Walter Ray Williams Jr. comes right back with a strike in the 4th frame.
Imagine that, Phil. He hit the pocket. You know, the only thing that could get in Walter's way is if the lanes break down a little bit and he doesn't make the adjustment early enough. So take a look at his bowling position round by round. He sort of snuck in there, got a little hot towards the end, and here he is. Another solid 10 for Williams. He feels like he should be able to just destroy his competition, but the carry is not really very good for Walter Ray.
It's amazing to me, Walter Ray. This is his 117th televised appearance. Number 1 in that category. Earl Anthony next up, 114.
And the spare for Walter Ray. And we have Billy Ginger with us, who is Amleto Monacelli's ball rep. And Billy, Amleto seems to have lane 48 figured out. Lane 47, a little bit difficult.
Yeah, it's a little tighter. He just has to make sure he gets the ball all the way to the gutter to get it back.
All right, well, we'll watch this ball together. Uh-oh.
That's trouble.
And you could hear that's trouble. Billy, was it just quick off his hand, or what did you see on that particular shot?
I think he just missed it. Just didn't quite catch it at the bottom.
Billy Amleto told me that he's taken a few more seconds this week before he gets going, something he's working on.
We've been working on a real good follow-through this week, and it worked really well early in the week. The lanes were hooking early. And got a little more oil tonight, but we're doing okay. We'll get there.
Well, popped a hole here in the 5th frame, so he's got to get going, doesn't he, Marshall, against a 30-time winner Walter Ray Williams Jr.
Well, tough situation for Amleto Monacelli, and finds himself working at a 180 pace. He's 29 pins down. If he can figure out a way to get the ball to the pocket, he's got a good chance to get back into the game.
And here comes 10 in the pit for Amleto Monacelli, voted into the PBA Hall of Fame a couple of years ago, looking for his 19th PBA win. Back with more of this match in a minute. Walter Ray Williams Jr. comfortable at this point, 29-pin lead. However, still a half of this game to go. The title match, Parker Bohn the 3rd on top.
And I think you heard someone yell out, "You're the man," and Walter, he knows he's the man.
He's been the man.
Yeah, for many, many years. Ball coming in half pocket. Not quite flush in the pocket, but the 6-pin responds, taps the 10 out, and the reaction from Walter is, hey, I can't carry the 10-pin.
So Walter Ray now up in the 7th frame.
Well, Amleto needs a break here. He got one.
So Walter just leaving that 4-pin. Will pick it up. He played golf early this morning on a very challenging course.
Well, yeah. Played over at Oak Hill. And,
bring a dozen balls at least.
He had a good time. Didn't score real well.
Make it straight.
He hasn't missed a spare in the 90s, I don't believe, on television. Hey, show your PBA loyalty by becoming a member of the PBA Fan Club. Fan Club members receive quarterly newsletters, which include the latest inside information on the PBA tours, tips and interviews with the pros, discounts on PBA merchandise, contests, and much more. Membership $14.95, plus $3 shipping and handling. Call 1-888-440-1340 as Monacelli strikes in the 7th.
Billy, that is the shot he had to have. Keeps himself in the match. Still has a chance against Monacelli, against Williams, excuse me. Just barely touches that 10-pin out. And the reaction is, yeah, give it to me one time.
Trying to cut into that lead. Down by just 19 up in the 8th.
Oh, no.
Second one tonight.
And both on that left-hand lane. Yeah, Billy, that's looks like that's kind of going to seal his fate. He needs to try and make this spare, but what did you talk about during the break? Certainly not throwing it in the channel.
No, I told him just to catch a handful on the right lane. He kind of missed the one before.
Yeah, he got it on the right lane, but boy.
Yeah, that lane's a little tricky. Good shot.
Right. He makes the spare, fortunately for Monacelli, but he lost a lot of wood there. The best Amleto can do, 200. Right now, Williams Jr. working on a 209 pace. So all Walter Ray Williams Jr. needs to do right now, Phil, is just keep filling frames.
Looked like it dropped off his hand a little bit. Still got the reaction and got a strike.
Well, is anybody better at filling frames than Walter Ray Williams Jr.? He does not make too many mistakes. I don't know if it dropped off his hand or not, but he sure dropped it in a nice spot on the lane. Power strike, pins respond. Williams gets a little bit pumped up, but maybe he's saving himself.
Ninth frame.
No, I can't believe it.
He's shocked. It's a 10 pin.
We knew that left lane was key for Walter Ray.
And you could hear Billy Inger saying the left lane was the one that was going to be key for
Come on,
Walter Ray.
That's it.
Sometimes those 10-pin spares can be difficult, especially towards the end of the match, but Walter Ray no problem and in charge here in the semifinal match.
Now to put any pressure. Boy, if Monacelli could have struck instead of throwing that ball in the channel in the 8th frame, he'd be right in this match. Gotta hurry up. Boy, every time he's hit the pocket, he's struck. So it's just been a matter of not being able to make the shots that he's needed. Ball's gonna make the hard charge. Expertly done once again. 3 strikes in the 10th would give him 200. It would force Walter Ray Williams to show up in the 10th frame, and stranger things have happened.
You know all about that, right, Marshall?
I used to find creative ways to lose.
Nearly put in the channel again, but a big strike by Monacelli gives him a chance here. He needs a couple more. He's living on the edge.
Well, with all, like, Monacelli has 2 open frames this game, and a ball that slipped out and went into the channel on a double. He's lost all sorts of pins, and he still has a slim chance.
Just the 2 pins standing.
Yeah, that should be about it for Amleto. Monacelli, best he can shoot, 189. Now there's Phil Cardinelli, the president of Track Incorporated and a good friend of pro bowling and a pretty darn good bowler. In fact, he was Sugar Ray's bowling partner earlier today. Taught him a little bowling lesson. Speaking of bowling lessons, there's
Given one.
Williams Jr.
Walter Ray Williams Jr. is the winner here in the semifinal match, and we're in for a classic title match. Walter Ray and Parker Bohn III.
Well, simply 2 of the best.
There's a pin in the channel.
Bowling pin in the channel.
And Walter Ray, always ever cognizant about the rules of the game, is not going to throw the ball until that pin is cleared, and that's has to be done.
Trying.
Been in the pocket all night long. There's another one, and Walter Ray Williams Jr. has won 2 matches now, and he will go into the title match here in Canandaigua, New York, taking on Parker Bohn III. Back with that in a minute. And coming up next week here on ESPN, the Greater Detroit Open, that'll be Taylor Lanes in Taylor, Michigan, 9:30 to 11, followed by Bay City Classic Bay Lanes. Wednesday, November 3rd, also 9:30 to 11 o'clock Eastern Time. And then the Indianapolis Open at, boy, a great stop too, Woodland Bowl, Wednesday, November 10th, 9:30 to 11. And keep in mind, too, in the senior circuit, it is the Villages Senior Tournament of Champions, and that is tomorrow. That's an outdoors event, 2 to 3 on the Deuce, ESPN 2. And we are set now for the title match. You've got a heavyweight bout here, don't you, Marshall?
Well, we got the number 1 ranked player against the number 2. So, yeah, this is a clash of the PBA Titans. Parker Bohn III against Walter Ray Williams Jr.
Looked like he struggled in practice a little bit, but he no problems there.
Right, you know, all the bowlers are bowling at a little slower pace today as far as the scores are concerned. The balls are going just a little bit longer down the lane. Strike or a 10-pin. It's a strike. you can almost call that before he throws the ball.
Both players with strikes to open up this title match.
All right, see if you can hit this one.
We'll watch the 6-pin tap out the 10-pin, and I believe I heard Walter say, hey, no 10-pin. He's left 8 10-pins so far, his first couple of games, 1 4-pin.
Oh, baby.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, baby, yeah!
Oh, my gosh, did he get that ball wide?
Double out the gate for Walter Ray. Parker with a strike.
Walter Ray surprised himself on that shot. He thought it was going to go high, but it held the pocket. Parker trying to even the score right here in the second.
Here's it back, and double for both players now. Parker with a new fan club, the Bohn Zone. Over 600 members, a new website, pb3bowl.com. He's getting a few hits.
Take a look at the classic style. Look at that high backswing and the great knee bend. This man has got a beautiful game. Unlike Walter Ray, foot is perpendicular to the foul line. He's got a multi-million-dollar arm swing, just fluid.
That's 3 in a row, gets out the 7-pin. Your arm swing was worth just about that much, Marshall.
Well, I got by, I suppose. Ball charging back to the right. There goes the 7-pin being knocked out by the 4. I believe Walter Ray Williams switched balls. How does he know to do that? Well, that's what makes him so great. And what Walter Ray is doing is trying to find more carry. He knows he can hit the pocket, but he wants to be able to hit the pocket and get 10.
Both players starting off this championship match with 3 in a row.
Well, that
Left enough of those already.
Well, speaking of a heavyweight fight, there's the champ, Sugar Ray Leonard. Really nice to meet him. Very personable man.
Not a bad bowler, says 170s, 180s. Walter picks up the 10-pin spare, so after a 3-bagger and a spare, he's still down. Parker Bohn leads it.
Well, Parker Bohn, when you said the word lead, he's been doing a lot of that. He led last week, he led this week, and absolutely just dominated the field by over 500 pins. So I know he feels this should be his tournament, but he needs to take it now. 10-pin for Walter Ray Williams Jr. and a 7-pin for TD3. That ball's way out to the edge. Makes the move back, but the 4-pin doesn't have enough motion on it to knock out the 7.
Picks up the spare. 3 wins for Parker. He had mentioned in the late 80s he wanted to win Player of the Year in the 90s, and final shot here looks like it's a good bet to win it.
Well, he's dominated the the tour this year, and I think he's got that in a pretty good hand. But he wants to win this tournament right now. With a win here, I'm not exactly sure, but it'd be very close. He could go into #1 of the power rankings, ahead of Walter Ray Williams Jr.
Parker was, boy, a dismal fourth after the first round. Then just took advantage. You had mentioned that he led it by over 500 pins this tournament.
Yeah, and he just barely averaged over 200 last night. So if he was on his game last night, he could have led it by 800 or 900 pins. But he'll take the 500.
Just as long as you lead it by 1.
Yep. The ball that Williams switched to goes a little longer down the lane before it makes its break. Gives him a different angle into the pocket. And right now, it's giving him a little better carry. He's thrown 5 shots. He's carried 4 out of the 5.
We are dead even. Midway through this title match. Blowing in the thumb hole.
Just getting a better little tackiness, get a good feel. That's a pretty nice feel.
How heavy are those pins?
Those are 310 Brunswick Pro pins, but for Walter Ray Williams Jr. and Parker Bohn, nothing's too heavy for them. Right now, Williams 10 pins ahead. We'll be right back.
Both these players going at it in this championship match.
Well, it's time for Parker to return with a strike to answer back Walter Ray Williams Jr. and even the match.
.227 average this year.
Boy, his carry is a lot better in the title match than it was in practice. He really did struggle, as you mentioned earlier. These guys are having a good time. They're both smiling.
Identical score, 3 strikes each, then a spare, and now a double as we head into the 7th frame. Parker looking for win number 22, and Walter Ray for win number 31. I thought I saw an 8-pin.
The ball finished just a little bit to the right, but that's just the power of the bowling equipment. Just as good as the man can throw it, and he throws it as good as anybody. Match is all squared up again.
Well, three frames to decide this one, Marshall.
Identical scores, 3 strikes a spare and 3 more strikes for both of these competitors. Who's going to flinch?
I don't think Walter flinched. It was just that 7-pin that said, I'm not going down. He left a lot of 10 pins tonight, and now a 7.
You'll see the 5-pin. It's going to race in front of the 7. Disappointment for Walter Ray Williams Jr. Needs to make the spare, which should be almost a given for him, and it is. Now, the door right now is wide open for Parker Bohn III to jump right through. 42 games, led by 538 pins. 3 frames to win it back.
Led last week, lost the title match to Rick Lawrence.
Gotta hurry. 7-pin, the last pin to fall.
11-pin lead as we head into the 9th frame. Wow. Now Parker's just wiping his ball off with the rag, get the oil.
Wants to make sure the ball's clean, get the oil off the ball so he can repeat the same shot he made last time.
That's nice. Both players still slapping hands.
High flush for Parker Bohn, and the reaction, not only does he want the vindication of winning this tournament, but he's bowling Walter Ray, wants to beat him too. And you could hear Walter saying he got it too far into the oil, didn't have the power on the ball to knock down the 7-pin. .247, the best for Williams. He needs to strike out just to force Parker Bohn to show up in the 10th frame.
Well, another great week by Walter Ray Williams, Jr. Bowled so well over the last 3 or 4 weeks. Of course, he's bowled so well for many, many years.
That ball was further to the right off his hand. That's got to project the ball down the lane, down the right-hand side of the lane. If he pulls it a little bit, doesn't get the good roll on the ball, that's when the carry's bad.
Again, a possible 247 for Walter Ray.
He's going to make him show up. Could force Parker to mark in the 10th frame. Still needs a good fill here in the 12th shot.
Come on, get over.
Well, leaves with a 10-pin at 246. Walter Ray Williams Jr. Now Parker Bohn up in the 10th. Needs a mark. 3 in a row to start this match for Parker, then a spare, and now 5 in a row.
Just needs to maintain his form. And he gets it done. There's the strike.
Parker Bohn, like a true champion. Disappointed last week. Comes back with a vengeance, leads his tournament by over 500 pins.
Well, that ball just barely squeaked back. And look, what, does he want it? Does he want that bad? That's as much emotion as you're ever going to see out of Parker Bohn III, a 22-time PBA champion.
Chance for a 279.
Now he's just having fun. Now, Parker, you're the best this week.
That's all right. 274 to 246. Couple of great champions. Parker Bohn, the winner of the Canandaigua Open, will be back to talk to Parker coming up here in just a couple of minutes. Congratulations to our champion, Parker Bohn III. 274 to 246, defeating Walter Ray Williams Jr. here in Canandaigua. Now my partner, Marshall Holman.
All right, let's take a look at this week's Ginkgoba moment of concentration. And it was Parker Bohn III. Needed a mark in the 10th frame. Watch how he gathers himself to make the shot, to win the tournament. He had the concentration. He knew exactly how to get the job done. And that's this week's Ginkgoba moment of concentration. Think better. Think Ginkgoba. Back to you, Phil.
All right, thanks a lot, Marshall. Boy, just a stunning victory for Parker Bohn III. Let's first of all bring in Sugar Ray Leonard. And he kind of threw out the KO punch late in the match, didn't he?
As a matter of fact, I thought he had a left hook. You have a great right hook. Congratulations to you, Parker.
Thank you very much.
How about giving the trophy? All right, there, give it. Sugar Ray, great to have you here in Canandaigua.
Thank you so much.
All right, now the Czech, Jack Moran, who's the proprietor here at Roseland Bowl. What a terrific job he's done all week. All right.
Parker, congratulations. You bowled great all week. You're a great champion. A great champion deserves a great prize, a check for $20,000. Congratulations.
Thank you, Jack. You know, Roseland Bowl, Jack, all your staff, everyone has been just outstanding. It's just unbelievable what you've done for the professionals, not only all week here, but obviously in years past. So hats off to you. Thank you very much.
Jack, could you ever imagine a greater title match between Walter Ray Williams Jr. and Parker Bohn?
You couldn't ask for a better match or a better pairing.
Parker, let's talk to you just a minute here about the title match, going up against certainly perhaps the greatest bowler of all time, although Earl Anthony with 41 titles, but Walter Ray will catch him sooner or later. You may catch the great Earl Anthony, but tell us about that title match.
Well, I mean, to be considered one of the best, you have to beat one of the best. So fortunately, I got by Walter Ray this week, but I know he'll be back. So, but before we forget anything, I'll tell you, most importantly, Track and Dexter, without you, this would not be all possible. So hats off to you as well. Thank you very much, Phil Cardinale.
Let's talk about practice time. I thought you were struggling a little bit out there, Parker. You come out, and it's lights out, 274.
Well, I went over and talked to my ball rep, Art McKee, and we straightened some things out and actually changed the ball here the last game, and oh, unbelievable. It all matched up perfectly.
Did you want to meet Walter for the title?
Actually, I hate bowling against him. He makes me strike too much every time I bowl against him.
You know, you have 22 titles. I'm trying to think here. You're tied now with, oh yeah, Marshall Holman. You'll pass him quickly. Won't you?
Do you think so?
Congratulations, Parker.
Thank you very much.
Let's hear it for Parker Bohn III. No doubt about it. Congratulations to Parker Bohn III, the winner of the '99 Canandaigua Open. Be sure to join us Wednesday, October 27th, as the PBA Tour revs it up its engines and heads to the Motor City next week for the Greater Detroit Open. Catch all of the action on ESPN at 9:30 Eastern. For my partner, Marshall Holman, I'm Phil Ferguson saying so long from Canandaigua. Sports Center is coming up next. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPN.com, part of the Go Network, go.com.